Hello everyone, I'm Mark Halsey. I'm with Fiona Halsey and we are Halsey Legal Services. This is part of our 6-monthly presentation on AFCA cases relating to life insurance. This is the third of our presentations, videos in relation to this. The topic for this presentation is the dispute that centres around the concept of what is an accident and what is sickness in terms of these policies. So over to you, Fiona. Can you tell us the background of the case and the determination?
Certainly. It's an important area because there are often different payment amounts and in one of these cases, different payment periods, according to whether the death has been caused by accident or illness, or even in some cases it's death, in some cases it's the actual disability. So in one of our cases it's disability as well. So it's a significant differential, and in the last 6 months there have been 3 determinations within AFCA. And what that suggests is, because not so many cases go to determination. So if you think of all the cases, that there are disputes that are solved at IDR level, and then there's quite a process within AFCA before you get to determination. So I expect there have probably been quite a few of these cases. So it's a bit of a hot topic. And so of the 3, I'll talk through the 3 cases. There are 3 which are relatively straightforward. Sorry, there are 2 that are relatively straightforward, and then 1 which is more complex and interesting. The first one was a situation where clearly someone was just having a go. And in this case, the insured's beneficiaries claimed the death was caused by a gardening accident. Okay, but there was no evidence of any gardening accident at all. So that one was dealt with relatively quickly. But I suppose that goes to the heart of the situation with AFCA, which is that there's no cost for a complainant to make a complaint.
Anyone can have a go.
So even though there was apparently no evidence of this gardening accident at all, in this case the insurer was dragged through all of the stages of AFCA, for no outcome for anyone. There
are frivolous and vexatious claims that are kicked out, but this wouldn't fall within that definition, obviously.
No. Well, that's right. I think a lack of evidence doesn't get you there, but that's a good point. So no gardening. The gardening accident, there was no evidence. The second case involved a situation where there was an extremely unwell person who went to hospital. He was morbidly obese. I think he topped out at 180 kilograms, and he had his digestive system was just absolutely disastrous. And we've been talking in some of our earlier sessions today about the significance of definitions. And in this case, it was required that the accident must be without any other contributing causes. So his family appears, it was a bit unclear, but it appeared as though they were trying to argue that there'd been some kind of medical accident which had caused, within the hospital, which had caused his death, and that therefore it should sit under the accident heading rather than the illness heading. But AFCA looked at his medical conditions, and interestingly, it would be difficult. I think it would be very difficult under this kind of definition of being without any other contributing causes to actually claim an accident in a hospital, because the nature of it is that you are there because of contributing causes.
Exactly.
So that didn't go well for the complainant. But the third case is the more interesting case. And this case involved a situation where there was a man who'd had a motorcycle accident in 1998. And as a result of the accident, he'd had really quite bad back injury. And he then he made a claim for income protection under this policy, and the insurer paid him out under the income protection until 2002. Then, however, the insurer decided that he could go back to work. The advice from his own doctors was that he should not go back to work, that he was not, that it wasn't, not just that he was disabled, that he wasn't required to go back to work, but that also he shouldn't go back to work. However, he must have been quite a tough guy, because he actually did go back to work, and he was a mechanic. And the evidence is that quite a lot of the time he had to actually walk around holding the wall, okay, or be holding onto the car in order to actually be able to do his work. So he continued doing that until 2021, when it all just got too much. And in 2021, it was determined that he had, his osteoarthritis had become just terrible. And that hadn't been an issue in 1998, okay? But he needed a complete knee replacement. And the rest of his body it seems as though it's just breaking down. And what was found was there was no doubt amongst the medical evidence, and there was solid medical evidence and by medical specialists that and on both sides, that the fact that he'd kept working had then contributed to him having this really bad gait. And then as a result, he then ended up with this situation in 2021 when he just couldn't work at all. And the situation from that is that, and it was the same insured all the way through. So this insured had said in 2002, you can go back to work. And now it was evident that what had happened had...
So the insurance company suggested he go back to work?
That's right. Yes, exactly. And so he did, okay. And then what happened is that he then was, at this point, he just couldn't go on anymore, okay. And the question was whether or not his inability to work now was a result of osteoarthritis, which of course is an illness, okay, or was it as a result of the original injury, which would be an accident. And if I go back to the wording of the policy, it's interesting on this, because, we've been talking about how important that is. And the wording of the policy here is that injury means the bodily injury of the insured caused by an accident occurring while the policy is in force and resulting directly and independently of all other causes in loss covered by this policy. Okay. Now, it's quite interesting to compare that with the other, the other ones we've looked at earlier today, where those definitions were that the accident must be without any other contributing causes, okay? And I think this is a looser definition.
It is.
Okay. So resulting directly and independently of all other causes. And the AFCA looked back to the original cause and said, well, the reason you've got this arthritis now is because of the fact that you've been doing this work in this situation, okay? And that was caused by your accident, okay? And that as a result, this is a situation of an accident, okay? And hence, you should be paid out as an accident victim rather than an illness victim. And I think I mentioned earlier that there was quite a significant change, okay, in the amount that would be paid to him, because if it was only as an illness, he would only have been paid for 5 years, okay, and he'd already used up 4 years of that at the beginning, okay, so there's only 1 more year of payment. Whereas if he was under accident, he would be paid out the rest of his life. And not just age 65, but which I'm not sure if this is, I wondered if the determination is 100% correct on this point, but it did say that he'd be paid out for life, which would be unusual for an income protection policy, but maybe. So it was it was an important question there, but the 3 cases are all significant because, especially on the marketing for insurance policies that I'm seeing on television now directly to the public, there's often a huge extra payment if it's a death by accident, because deaths by accident are so rare. So a useful case to consider that. And also another of the situations where you're looking for what's the wording of that? What's the
It all boils down to it, doesn't it, at the end of the day?
It completely does.
And you can't make assumptions based on industry practice. It's what's in the contract.
That's it. Exactly. Because these there's 3 cases, and the 2 first that I talked about are actually with the same insurer. So they had the same wording. Well, it might not always be the case because you can have earlier and later policies, can't you, with different wording? But they did have the same wording. This final case. But I have to say, you're kind of pleased that the guy got it in the end, because it really felt like you were just thinking, wow, because he worked for so long with that injury. You just thought that was tough, wasn't it?
And I found it incredible that the insurance company that sought to disentitle him actually encouraged him to return to work in the first place.
That's right.
I find it extraordinary.
And all the evidence was that the work had caused this problem.
It's interesting. In all 3 of the sessions we've done, the insurance companies life insurance companies have not covered themselves in glory, have they?
No, and it's that's true. Well, I suppose I did choose the more interesting cases.
Sure.
Okay. There's an element of that. You do look around for things that would be more interesting to our viewers. I suppose the other thing is that in these cases the companies didn't give up, did they?
No.
They kept going. They didn't pay as they went along. So
while it may not represent the standard practice, what I guess I'm getting at is that they're pretty extreme positions that were adopted, and certainly would not be positions that we would expect as lawyers.
No, you'd be pretty unhappy if you were the complainant or the person who actually advised you to take up the policy.
Exactly.
Because all of my...
It reflects, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, and I don't know about you, but all of my clients who give a life insurance advice all really like the thought of being able to literally help somebody to get money when they need it. It's really important to them. So
increasingly so now that they're getting involved in insurance handling.
Yes, probably.
Okay, well, thank you for that, and thank you for joining us.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Bye.